All right, we've been walking the walk of wine. We've been looking at some bottles and opening them up and showing out a pour in certain glasses and doing the sniffiness sniff and the swirly swirl and starting to talk about wine. And that leads us directly into this whole next section of our short wine course, Talking the Talk, because it is crucial to be able to speak this language of wine, not so that you can be a snob. No. Au contraire. It's so that you can appreciate wine more, be able to shop smarter, and be able to respect the whole process more and converse with family and friends in a whole new way. It truly is like learning another language. And let's look at some of the language of wine that's mostly daunting to most inexperienced or starter wine drinkers. Things like, just looking right here on the shelf at some wine descriptions, randomly. Sexy, complex nose offers red and black currant, fresh herbs, flowers, coffee bean, milk chocolate, and licorice. What? Is that a wine or a candy store? Oak spiced and aromas of red and black currant and dried flowers with slow building smokiness? What is slow building smokiness? From a white wine here, Pinot Grigio, brilliant straw color with emerald reflections. What's an emerald reflection? Fresh and floral bouquet with a hint of pears, apricots, and bananas. Fresh and inviting with a bright fruit and easy drinking style with a pleasing hit of almonds in the finish. What is that all about? I mean, are these people like full of Franzia? Oh, full of Franzia. That's a good one. I got to write that down. Or is there something to it? Yes, there actually is. Now, those are a bit over the top, and those descriptions are plentiful in wine stores, on shelf tags, in wine writers' descriptions, in multiple wine magazines, and from wine rating systems and critics around the world. They talk this big language that for most of us, we're like, what? That's why I'm scared of wine, because I can't talk like that. You don't have to talk like that. But what I want you to do is actually start building your vocabulary. I don't want you to be a snob. I want you to be practical about this and be able to put words onto the smells and the taste that you're getting on your palate. It truly is learning to speak a language, and like learning any language, once you learn it, it opens up a whole new avenue of thought, of interaction, and appreciation. And on that note, let me give you some actual reasons why I want you to do this. Because by the way, it's challenging. It's difficult. Learning a foreign language is hard, and even though this is words in English, it still is kind of like learning another language, but it's so worthwhile. Why is that? Because if you can speak this speak and you understand some of these things, by the way, I don't even agree with half the stuff I just read, but I understand it. And in understanding this and being able to talk this talk, it demystifies the whole process. And so you're not scared of it. So you build confidence. You're like, I know this is BS. What is smokiness? But they're saying there's hints of pears? Good, because I like pear. It demystifies it. You get it. It also helps build appreciation for the craft of winemaking itself, which is the most awesome thing ever for most of us who are really into wine. That you start to pick up the nuances and start to really appreciate, wow, what the winemaker did to make this particular product, what the grape grower must have done to get these flavors out of these grapes at this particular vintage year. You really appreciate it more. It's like, wow, this is really a high art, the art of winemaking. Why else do we want to learn this language? It increases your enjoyment of the product itself because you are paying more attention to the specifics, to the detail, and to the complexity. A lot of wines, especially ones you're going to pay more money for, are quite complex. And if you're not in the framework, the mind think of being able to put words on these things, then it becomes a more shallow experience. If you can't describe things, then you can't really appreciate the complexities. You just put the glass up to your nose, and you're like, yeah, it's good. And I actually know people that have been drinking wine for 10, 20, or 30 years that really still are not very good at speaking the speak. And so when you say, oh, why do you like this wine? 'Cause it's good? And it's like, well, okay, that's okay. And if that's you, that's fine. I'm not making fun of you. But I want to know why. I want to know why I should be trying that wine. Because what is it you like? And if you can describe it, then, hey, that's a word I like. I want to try that wine too. Which really leads into the next reason why we really needed to learn how to talk this talk. being able to read the language of the labels, of the wine descriptions, the shelf talkers, and of these wine critics' reviews. You have to know the language to understand what it's saying. Many more wineries are putting descriptions of their wines right on the bottle. And if you have not mastered, or at least started to master, the art of putting words onto the flavors and aromas that you yourself like, then how can you shop? How can I know that I like red and black currant and dried flowers with slow building smokiness, or I like red cocoa, or I like jalapeno, whatever word is in there. If I know I like that and I've identified that word in wines that I appreciate, when I read this, it's meaningful. I get it. It's like, oh, okay. I'm probably going to like this wine because I like those flavors. If you have never put those words onto those flavors, you can't understand these things and you're not as smart a shopper, which leads into the other reason I really want you to learn how to talk the talk is I want you to be able to de-snob the snobs. I want you to be confident in what you smell and what you taste when you're around other people who are trying to perhaps BS you about what they say you should be smelling and tasting. And you have these people that are like, yes. I get the right bank hint of Formica and schist in this particular Bordeaux. And I'm like, yeah, you're full of schist. That is taking it too far. That's too goofy. And I want you to be confident enough to be like, really? Because I don't get that at all. I get elderberry and red currant. Where are you getting schist from? So if you can't verbalize that, then people easily get bowled over by snobs who are trying to put too much information out in front as a show of their pomp and circumstance. But you know what? It's not just snobs. It's really good to be sensible and practical about describing wines so that you're not fooled by advertisements, marketing ploys, by wine critic reviews, or by a wine shop salesperson, or even a waiter, a maitre d' in a restaurant who might be trying to upsell you. Who folks are saying, yes, this is really great wine. It has hints of this and smokiness and herbs. It isn't that great. Well, if you don't know how to describe wine, you're like, okay, if you say it's great, I guess it's great. If you know how to describe wines, you can say, I don't like herbal smokiness. No, I don't want that. Go away. So it's just sensible for your own shopping and for your own enjoyment and for your own enrichment to be able to describe this stuff. And this is more just kind of being social and happy because I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. It's fun. It's fun to be able to converse with other humans. We're humans. That's what we do. Hopefully still for a little bit longer before we all go online and never talk to each other ever again, except with tweets. But conversing with people about wine, especially over good wines and good food, and pairing them and talking and discussing and saying, oh, wow, this Bordeaux really brings out the smoky pepperiness of this asparagus dish. Whatever it is, that's fun, that's interaction, that's being human, and it's part of the learning process that we all gain from each other. Oh, you detect this? Oh, good, I got that too. Or I didn't really detect that. I don't think it really pairs well with this. That's how you up your game. It's really like riding a bike. It's daunting at first to be able to put words onto smells, especially smells and flavors. But the more you do it, you'll be shaky at first. But once you get on there and start riding, you'll be like, all of a sudden, yes, you can now go 1,000,000 miles and win the Tour de France, just like Lance Armstrong, except you got to take a lot more drugs in order to beat him. I'm kidding. Just say no to drugs. Now, having said all that, you might now be all psyched. You're like, good, yes, I want to start being able to describe wines more and describe aromas and flavors. Good. And you should already be writing down stuff. Think about already the wine that you have open right now, because remember, you're supposed to always have a wine open when you're watching these videos, and start to make general assessments. Does it taste fruity? Does it taste floral? Does it taste this or that? Just start jotting these things down. I want you to do a blog for this class, and I want you to maybe even take notes in a little notebook for all the wines you try for our short course. But you don't got to do this the rest of your life, but it helps to put things down, because a lot of folks still are daunted by this. Again, it is challenging learning a foreign language. It's more challenging because it's not really a foreign language. It's your language, but it's a different way of thinking. And so people still do this. Again, some seasoned veterans, but a lot of it experienced first-time drinkers. And they're like, yeah, I smell it, and all the people around me are smelling red currant and Twizzler and elderberry and smoky oaky. I don't smell nothing. I'm sorry, Boyer. I don't smell nothing. Nonsense. Of course you smell something. Unless your nose is broke, unless you have a cold or you have a clothespin over your nose, you smell lots of different things. What you haven't done yet is trained your nose and your palate to be connected to your brain, hardwired up in certain ways that you then associate a word or a phrase or a taste or a smell with what you're getting in your nose and palate. Does that make sense? You can train yourself though, right? You can do this. It's very challenging. And by the way, why is that? Why is it so challenging to do this? Because we are humans and we're visual creatures. And so when we describe things, usually it's color, okay, color or shape. Visual, that's red. This is a red wine. Everybody can do that. See how easy that was? Oh, it's a white wine. You got that because it's color. Visual. And it's even easier to describe food because you look at stuff and it's giving you visual cues. Oh, I'm having green beans or asparagus with this steak. Asparagus. I see it, I identify, I know what that is. And as I eat it, yes, it tastes like asparagus. But there's also hints of salt or black pepper or cumin. That's because it's visual. We can make the connection and build on that connection. Why is it so tricky with wine? There's no visual connection. We've lost it. It's either red or it's white or it's pink in the middle. But that's it. That's the only visual cues we have. So when people are smelling this and they're like, I get hints of asparagus, first timers are like, but I don't see no asparagus. How are you getting oak or toast or Twizzler or boysenberry? They're not in there. I can't see that. And that's why it's so complicated. You have to actually train yourself to visualize this in your own brain, but you don't have to do it all by yourself. There's actually some great tools. I'm going to talk about the one main tool called the wine wheel. And there are an infinite variety of wine wheels. You can download them from the internet. They're in wine books and wine shops and lots of different places. The basic premise is pretty awesome, actually. And we'll just put up a wine wheel right now, and I'll just go through how it works. And I want you to print off one of these or get one of these or just have one of these available for the rest of this short course so that you can start playing this game and building your vocabulary. And what you do with the wine wheel is, the wheel is providing you the visual reference. Yes, it's just a wheel, and yes, it's just words, but it's providing you with a reference and words that you can then start to associate with those smells and flavors you're getting in your nose and on your palate. You start in the center. Center square, Chuck, for 100. When you're looking at the center of this wheel, you see extremely broad general categories like fruity and floral. And those are awesome ones to start with because everybody kind of gets that. Those are easy for you to pick out. A lot of red wines, actually a lot of white wines too, have some sort of fruity element. Surprise, surprise, wine's made from fruit. So oftentimes, even the inexperienced can say, yes, that's fruity. I taste or smell kind of citrusy, kind of dark berry, grapey, jammy, plummy, raspberry. Yes, these are all easy ones to pick out. Floral is also an easy one, another major category there in the center of the wheel. Floral, rose, violet, we know what flowers smell like, and we might be able to detect some of those things within the smells of the wine too. Spicy is another general category. You ever get a little black pepper, a little something else in there that's not fruit or not floral? It's usually in the spicy category. Vegetative is one that's perhaps a little tricky to think about, but it's again broad-based category. Anything that's leafy, in the vegetation. Go chew up some grass or leaves sometimes to get a true sense of what vegetal means. Even chew up hay, it doesn't matter. It's all in that broad classification. And almost vegetative and floral, vegetative and fruity are almost opposites of each other. Not really opposites, but they're very easy to pick off the differences between the two. I'm just going to read off the other broad categories here in the middle of the wheel. Things like nutty. And again, you know what nutty is and caramelized? Yeah, I know what caramel taste and smell like. Woody flavors. Woody comes from the oak components. If a wine has been aged in oak, it will pick up things like either burned or cedar or oak or even hints of vanilla. Vanilla comes from the chemical vanillin in oak barrels. So if you taste that in the wine, it's actually in the woody category. And finally, earthy. Earthy is just what it is, kind of dusty, musty, mushroomy. Even I think saddle leather can be in this category, although sometimes saddle leather is up in vegetative. For the rest of the wheel, I'm just going to reference. You see some words that look a little scary like microbiological or oxidized, pungent, or chemical. Mostly these are flaws in wines, and it does take up a significant portion of most wine wheels. Flaws. We're not even going to get to those because if you ever detect any of those or most of those, anything like fishy or smoky or acid or wet dog, you usually want to send the wine back. So we're not going to go to it in this particular class, but be forewarned, yes, wines can go bad. They can get bacterial infection or get oxidized, and they're not good. But let's focus on building our positive vocabulary. So for every wine, for the rest of this short course, at least get into the center of the wheel and say, hey, I tried this wine, I'm smelling it, it's in the fruity category, I got it. I detect hints of floral, got it. Oh, the wood, I got some of the wood, good. It can be more than one, it can be more than two. It's whatever you smell and taste and detect. Just jot it down. And then, as you get a little bit better at it, then you progress outward from that piece of the pie in the middle of the wheel and start to further define it. And we'll stay with fruity because it's the easiest. If you smell and taste wine, you're like, oh, that's fruity. Okay, good. Stop right there. What type of fruit are you talking about? Because citrus is fruity, and so is dark fruits like, again, red currants, boysenberry, raspberry. And they're both fruits, but they're radically different, and that's easy for you to detect. You know, citrus, lemon, lime is way different than raspberry, blackberry, blueberry. So you want to start, after you get in the fruity category, start to put some words on it that are more specific. Is it citrus or is it red fruit? And then, if you want to continue to build, you can push out to the outer ring of the wine wheel. So say you have a fruity wine and you're like, yeah, it's more berry than citrus. Okay, follow out from the berry category and you got blackberry, raspberry, strawberry, or blackcurrant or cassis. Do you know any of these flavors? You probably do. Do you detect any of those in the smell? If you do, write them down. And that's the simplicity of the wine wheel. You can do it as much or as little as you want. The more that you verbalize, the more that you write these things down, the more that they become kind of part of your working vocabulary, and you become more and more confident of saying, yes, I got hints of strawberry and violet. Maybe a hint of citrus. And I'm looking at the wheel. Oh, you know what? I hadn't even thought about it until I saw the word, but hints of tobacco. It has a bit of vegetative hints of dried tobacco. Yes. Or, and this is to kind of finish up, make up whatever you want. This wine wheel is here and available simply to help facilitate you putting words onto the smells and tastes that you're getting. But it's not exclusive. You can be as confident as you want to be in your palate. In fact, let me reword that. I want you to be as confident as possible in your own nose and in your own palate. You be comfortable describing wines in any terminology you want. This is just, the wine wheel is just helping you visualize it. Again, trying to make those hardwired connections between here and here. The wine wheel is great for starting to do that. But be confident. What do you smell? Do you smell and taste fruity pebbles in that rosé? Then that's what it smells and tastes like to you. Do you smell fig and tobacco and smoke? Then good. You detect hints of jalapeno or chive or dill? Good. Write it down. Smell Twizzlers? Write it down. That is your palate. You know whose palate is exactly right and whose nose is exactly right? Yours is, and it is every single time. Do not be berated or belittled by a wine writer or a shelf tag or a wine connoisseur or snob who says, yes, this is what I get out of this, therefore that's what you should get out of it. Absolutely not. We're all different. We all smell slightly different. We all taste slightly different. And one man's trash is another man's treasure. Just because a wine costs $100 and some snobs want to sit around swirling it and saying, wow, isn't this fantastic? If you try it and you think it sucks, then guess what? It sucks for you, and that's okay. Learn to be able to identify what you think sucks about that. Learn to identify what you like about other wines so that you can be a smarter shopper, and you can converse more with other people who can also help you become a smarter shopper and recommend other wines to you. If you like the smell of eucalyptus or smoke or a Twizzler, then people can say, oh, you know what? I had never thought about that. That's awesome. I detect Twizzler in this too. And you know what other wine tastes like this? This one over here, you'll really like this. That's the beauty of being able to talk the talk. And to end, I also do this. In order to build confidence in folks, or actually uncover their lack of confidence, I oftentimes BS people, intentionally. And what I'll do is, sitting around with a wine, and let's pretend it's this wine right here, and I'm around a dinner party, table of 5 or 10 or 20 people or a bunch of students, and we're all drinking the same wine. We all want to start talking the talk with each other. So we're all doing the sniff and swirl. Let's pretend like that this wine is, say, a classic fruity, jammy, plummy, maybe raspberry, blackberry, blueberry categories with a hint of tobacco. That most people would agree, yeah, I kind of get all those things. Sometimes while we're having a conversation, or I'll chime in first, I'll say, oh, wow, does everybody smell that? I mean, this smells like eucalyptus big time. Oh, do you get that? It smells like Vicks Vapor Rub. It doesn't exist. I really don't smell that, but you'll be amazed that if you speak confidently and you throw out words like that, it smells like Vicks Vapor Rub. How many people be like, yeah, I get the Vicks too. And then after 60 seconds of that, I'll say, I'm just BSing you. I don't get that at all. Why would you agree with something that you don't get? You know, maybe you actually did get it, but the power of suggestion is really powerful. And I don't want people to be misled by people who may be snobs, maybe trying to sell a wine to them that they really don't like or really don't want, or are just trying to lord over knowledge over you that, yes, this is what I get and I'm smarter than you, so you should get this too. Be confident. Be like, no, Vicks Vapor Rub? What the hell are you talking about? Be confident in your nose and your palate and check people that need to be checked physically into a wall of wine if necessary. But again, the whole point of this exercise is to get you more confident in yourself. You're the one who's always right about every wine you've ever tried. Being able to be confident enough to converse with other people, to talk this talks while you're walking the walks, so that you can be a better shopper, a better connoisseur, and actually learn from each other while we are sitting around sipping wine, talking about it, having food with it. That's the real joy of it, the conversation, the social aspect, and learning from each other while we're talking the talk. For the rest of these lectures on Talking the Talk, we're going to go into individual components like color or body or structure of the wine, and certain terms that people use and what those are all about, again, to continue to build our vocabulary and talking this talk.